Hey there. Welcome to Top of Mind. Real talk for today's woman. With Anna and Karen.
Take one.
Ha! Let's hope it takes.
That's what it takes, yes. Needless to tell y'all, I lost 4 recordings. So we're redoing these.
So you never know what you're going to hear this time around.
Yeah, we don't either.
Oh,
So, Anna, you had suggested us talking about our non-negotiables for our daily routines, the things that make us start our day or end our day or in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So why don't you start? What are your non-negotiables?
oh man, I thought you were going to start this one. But the reason why I think that's important is there's a lot of talk about what we need to do on a daily basis. And sometimes it becomes so, for me, so complex that I almost freeze. So, I follow people, I'm sure you follow people, and they spend, an hour doing this and then an hour and a half in the gym and then this. And it's just, for me, it's overwhelming. So I have to have I do have non-negotiables as it relates to kind of my physical and my mental health,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to keep it simple.
Okay.
So my non-negotiables are first thing in the morning, I drink my 16 ounces of water, sometimes with my Celtic sea salt, sometimes plain.
Mm-hmm.
I have to get up within an hour of the sunrise and I have to go outside with my bare feet to the earth with the sunrise. Now that'll change a little bit more as it gets colder. And obviously if there's snow on the ground, I'll still go outside, but it won't be with bare feet. So water first, sunlight second. I would say 10,000 steps a day is my minimum.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I kind of have built up to, but that is a non-negotiable for me. That it's just 10,000 steps. And for me, it equates for about 5 miles. How I accomplish that is I do a morning walk with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably 15 to 20 minutes, typically before 7 a.m. And then it's just like your daily movement, whether I'm going up and down the steps or I'm running the vacuum. A lot of that is just movement because that's all we need. We don't need some kind of formal things. We just need natural body movements. But anyway, I'm digressing. And my husband and I walk again at night. We walk the dogs kind of around sunset. So 10,000 steps would be is that my third non-negotiable?
Mm-hmm.
I would say my fourth non-negotiable is to put my phone, actually it's probably to stop eating by 7:30.
Mm.
And then I should maybe rephrase that because if I'm out to dinner with friends, there's exceptions to these things. So when I say non-negotiable, maybe let me take that off the table.
Yes.
Because that is a negotiable.
Your non-negotiables are negotiable.
Well, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, wait a second, because if my schedule change, we're talking about things that I don't miss.
The things that you optimally try to do every day.
Correct. Yes. And so my water, my sunrise, my 10,000 steps, putting my phone down, at least an hour before I lay my head on the pillow to an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say just to get a good night's sleep. So I'm typically in bed by 10 o'clock.
And you also mentioned stopping eating at a certain time most nights.
I did, yes. But I kind of took that off my non-negotiable. But yes, I try to be done. My kitchen is closed. My mouth is closed kind of philosophy by 7:30. So that's kind of my thing. And they're spread out.
Mm-hmm.
Even my 10,000 steps, it's a process. It's not something I'm doing. I have to have X amount by this time. Typically, what I try to do is just move 250 steps every hour. I'm trying to do some kind of movement, nothing crazy. And, like during my workshop, I'm like, we took smoke breaks. So we could take a light break or we could take hey, let me get some movement in break.
Yeah.
And incorporate it, even if we're in the workplace. How do we incorporate those things into our daily routine? So they're my 5.
It's interesting because when we actually did this in our last recording, I know I rambled off what I did, and you found it was overwhelming, and you thought that it was a lot. And the interesting thing is that it's just different because I'm sitting here listening to yours, going, "Oh my God, that's a lot. I don't know that I could do that." You know. So it's kind of like what we get accustomed to and used to.
Hmm.
So like for example, a lot of yours is on the physical and physiological essence.
Hmm.
Uh, Mine is, which, mine is more to do with the spiritual, mental aspect, you know. So for me, prayer in the morning is important. Yes, I also get up and hydrate. That's an important thing. Sometimes with salt, sometimes without. Um, but the things I like to do is like prayer, visualize, write out my day. And this sounds like a lot, but they're really 10-minute segments.
Hmm.
Like for example, when I'm making my lunch, I put on motivational music that gets me going and it starts my day.
Hmm.
And what I find is it doesn't matter how tired I am. Since I've started doing these things in the morning, this routine 10 minutes, it's kind of like we talked about it, Rod, whatever,
Yeah.
forget the name, the miracle morning, like 10
Yes.
minutes of certain things. So, I scribe how I want my day to be, who I want to be, remembering that, my life is about service, is what I want it to be. So I just affirm that through prayer, through a visualization, and through writing. I can't always do all of them. I may sleep in one morning, but I will do at least one of those to affirm what I want to put out as I'm going out into the world.
Hmm.
I like to listen to, like, I have a business podcast I like to listen to. I enjoy that, and any motivational stuff during the week. I do know when I'm at work, I listen to a lot of things when I'm not like taking calls and doing speaking to people. So I listen to different people podcasts, but motivational stuff, stuff that teaches me. I'm always learning about self development and confidence, and what's the new data that's out there. I love positive psychology and stoicism and just studying them and listening to them. um, and then, like you, I do believe I sit at a computer most of the day. So every hour I get up and I walk, I call it walking the stairs. I go up these stairs, across the hallway, down the stairs, down the basement, back up. And I do that pretty much every hour. So it's just something that happens. I'll start to feel my hips tight. So I don't count steps, but I do know that when I'm at work, I don't want to sit in my chair that entire time. My colleague sits there the whole freaking 8 or 10 hours. And I can't believe it, like, I can't do that. In fact, I keep my sweater in my locker, like, I keep everything not at my desk, so I have to go get it,
Hmm.
step up. And in the evenings, I'm not so good. That's why I'm really top heavy. Like, I get up about 2 hours
No
be
pun intended.
yeah. I get up about 2 hours early in the morning because I'm not if it doesn't happen in the morning, it's unlikely for it to happen. Like every day, I love the intention of reading 10 pages a day. I
Hmm.
get into bed, I read maybe a page and I fall asleep. Like I'm just one of those reading puts me right out.
Right.
So, I have some evening routines, but they are never the go-to because half the time I'm asleep, something happens, whatever. So,
Right.
but I find it nourishes my soul. It
Hmm.
nourishes my mentality. When it doesn't happen, I feel hot. Like I can go halfway through the day and all of a sudden, like maybe I've been in conflict with people or, I'm aggravated, this type of stuff. And all of a sudden, hang on, I didn't take any time to spend for myself this morning. And then
Hmm.
I'll disappear to the locker room for 5 minutes and just remember to be grateful and, pick 5 things to be grateful for. And it changes my whole state.
Hmm. So I want to get back to when you talked about your colleague sitting at the desk,
Yes.
because like that whole the whole thing now is our
Mm,
sedentary lifestyle is the new smoking.
yeah.
So I find that to be so interesting. I'm so proud of you that you just get up and move.
Yeah.
That it doesn't have to be anything dazzling, or our bodies aren't designed for dazzling. Our bodies aren't necessarily designed for the gym. Our bodies are designed for natural movement, carrying our groceries, walking up the steps, parking far away in the parking lot, and
Yep.
just walking toward the store we're going into. So I find that very interesting. And we talked about my ADHD, so I can't sit still. There's not a chance in hell I'm going to sit at a desk for 6 to 8 hours. I just couldn't do it. mentally as well as physically.
This is off on another tangent, and I can't remember who it was, but just recently in the last week, I was reading somebody who talked about not believing in ADHD, believes that it's a social kind of construct that we've done because, given the right circumstances, everybody who says that they have and have been tested for ADHD
Mhm.
actually is able to focus when it's of interest to them.
Hmm.
And so when you said about the ADHD, I often used to think that I had it. Grown out of it, whatever, I don't know what. But when he said that, it just kind of struck something like, that's really interesting. You know, I remember way back in the day, they were doing some studies in Toronto at one of the youth shelters, youth group homes. And what they were attributing, the kids, they were putting on Ritalin and Adderall and things like that. What they're
Mhm.
attributing it to was a lack of proper sleep. Not that they weren't asleep for 10 hours every day, but they
Mhm.
weren't hitting the proper stages of sleep.
Interesting. Now, see,
And
I've not taken medication, nor probably will I. But I mean, there's a lot of things that interest me. Like I love to read,
Mhm.
so I can't say that I'm not focused because I don't like to read. I love to read. You know that. Like my goal is 2 fiction books a month at a minimum, and then I do my nonfiction. So I don't know. I mean, I'd have to look into that because again, it's like anything. We can have a theory about
yeah,
where we can have conflicting or so I'm always interested in digging into the science behind things.
yes.
Like what I don't like is this whole neurodivergent tag that we're putting on things. That's me personally. Okay.
Oh, I'm with you on that. Yes.
So that's just not my bag. I don't, I'm one of those, my kids say that, what do my girls say? I don't personally believe that everything needs a label. I mean, but
Well,
that's me.
our generation was trying to dispel all the labels, to take away, the psychiatrists and the doctors. They were the ones with all the answers. They were the power. And, unless you were in that field, you wouldn't know. And so they would label you. So we were trying to cast off those labels and to say, no, we're more than a label. And I'm an expert on my body or my health, and I can have knowledge too by reading. And nowadays, I see this whole trend with younger people. It's like, this is how I identify. Give me labels. That's
Yes.
how I see myself in the world, how I'm different.
Hmm.
And it just drives me crazy. And then I hear neurodivergence. And it's like, well, fuck, I've been neurodivergent my whole life. Like, who isn't?
True.
Like, but, but why? I don't need that label,
Yeah. I'm
I,
with you. Yeah.
you know, yes, I'm different. I'm weird. The older I get, the more instead we call it quirky, or whatever.
Hmm.
And yes, I've had problems. Who doesn't?
Right.
Maybe I didn't learn well in school, or this type of teaching wasn't equated to me and things. And anyway, I just find it so that the neurodivergence, it's just another way of putting a label. And I don't understand the want and need to label ourselves, to put
Yeah.
ourselves in those boxes.
And I would go so far to say that's all of us.
Sorry, that it's what?
All of us.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
yeah.
we all have something.
Yes. Yeah.
And our generation, again, we were meant to hide that something.
Yeah.
That, hey, I have anxiety. Hey, you have depression. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying that,
No.
but everything was we joke, a BFS, a big fucking secret. Because
No.
you didn't talk about things.
No. No.
Because for fear probably of judgment, but that's kind of how it was. But I feel like and I think the hardest part for me is when I went into counseling, post Desert Storm, was like I always felt like the problems I had in my family were unique to me.
Yeah.
So once I entered, counseling after Desert Storm, things like that, then I recognized that we're not unique. My family with their problems weren't unique. We all have things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I don't like the neurodivergent because I think we all have things. Some of us
Absolutely.
are better at hiding
Mhm.
or just better at assimilating or
Yeah.
fitting in, but we all have things.
I think in some ways, with not talking about it, also made it so that we had to survive beyond it.
Interesting.
Get through,
That's
get
very
through it.
interesting. Tell me more.
Well, just that whole concept that, it may be hidden in that. And I don't, I'm not saying that it's good to be ashamed and that type of stuff, but what it did do was is, I think of the old farmers. My uncle Charlie, he's not my uncle, great uncle anyway. I heard stories about, okay? He broke his he broke his hip in the field. And every day he went out to feed the horses and everything like that. He never once took a day off because that's just what you did. It was
Mhm,
still, if he didn't go, the horses and cows didn't get fed and watered. So
mhm,
he grabbed a cane and off he went. And it's kind of like, I think of that way when it comes to certain things where we didn't talk about it. What came out of talking about it was is understanding I'm not alone. I'm
mhm.
not the only one. Like when I was a child, Oprah Winfrey was just coming out. And at the time, she was having these worst case scenarios, the kids running around, burning down houses and terrorizing. That was me. My parents took shifts, staying awake because they were scared I was going to burn down the house or murder them in the middle of the night. And that was me. And, it's kind of like I didn't know that the weather was out there.
Uh-huh.
And that's what they call that back then. We didn't have Ritalin and Adderall, which I'm sure I would have been given if that's what they had back then. I was hyper as hell. But the whole idea is that we didn't talk about it. So we
Right,
managed,
right.
you know, and we worked around it. And then once we started talking about it, we get to know, hey, there are others like us. There's some then it's kind of like, well, now I'm no longer unique and different. I no longer stand out. So I have to grab another label,
Mhm,
you know? And with grabbing the labels, it also means that somewhere there's a lack of changing or moving beyond it. I sit there. And that's the part that I think is not helpful. Like, and not to say that it's great to keep secrets or for to be silently disabled or anything like that, but there was something about the fact that there was an expectation that everybody rose to a certain level and that you try to get beyond it.
mhm.
Like, there's a
So, do you
sorry,
think
go ahead, sorry.
do you think it made us more resilient? Is that kind
Oh,
of what I'm hearing, the flip side of
yeah, yeah. Absolutely more resilient and less like I mean, we've heard of tons of stories where a parent didn't believe their child was deaf, or that they were unteachable or this type of stuff, or even somebody who doesn't believe that they have cancer or believes that they can heal themselves, right? All of those things
Mhm,
through suggestion and change, we're able to move beyond and see these miracles that happen. But you
mhm.
can't when you grab the label and you hold it to you.
When you yeah.
Like I was when I was younger, I was so much into being a sexual abuse victim. I had to remember what the word was. It's been so long. I was a victim. I was a victim mentality. And then one day, I don't know if they had it down the States, but up in Toronto, we had Take Back the Night, and it was for rape survivors.
Uh-huh.
It was in March, you know? And I got in there, and that was the first time I heard the word survivor,
Huh.
you know? And
Yeah.
it's the switch in that mentality.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I and you and I have talked before about being a victim versus a creator.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I can absolutely see that side.
Yep. It's very interesting. We started this about what are the things that we absolutely have to do today
These are the
to,
rabbit holes we go down.
to labels.
Oh, it's true. And you know what? I did forget my one other non-negotiable is grounding.
Mm.
I did talk about that briefly, but I do ground several times a day. Um,
What do you do in the winter for grounding? Because you do that by taking off your shoes and walking on the grass normally, right?
Correct. Or water's a great grounding source. So, if you live near a lake or an ocean, your water is actually probably the most powerful source for grounding. The beach. But if it's too cold to do it outside, which I'll press the limits. I mean, snow's kind of like my limit. Otherwise, I'll be like, "Woo, woo, woo." I'm like a little jackrabbit out there, woo, 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 with bare feet. But I have a basement, so as long as and it's concrete, so we think we talked, and I don't want to go down. We'll go down this rabbit hole the next episode.
Okay.
But
Why don't shall we just end it there? It sounds
yeah,
like we went. Okay, so we're gonna end this episode. You might be surprised. The next one's gonna be about grounding, it sounds like. So anyway, I'm Karen Vale, a confidence and mindset coach. And
I am Anna Jennings, and I'm kind of like a midlife mentor as it relates to health and wellness and all those groovy things.
thanks for joining us today.
Have a good one.
stop recording.